Alright buddies, we are going to improve our selections even further using a function called select and mask. So this is a really useful tool, especially if you're going to be trying to mask selections like this. Like in this photo right here, I have of a woman with very wild hair, right? And so this is you wouldn't want to go through and have to like take the lasso tool or any of the other tools and trace around every little wisp of hair, right? And so select and mask is going to be a really useful tool for that. So to use select and mask, first we're going to make a selection. So I'm just going to use the quick selection tool, and let me make my brush a little bigger, and I'm just going to start, ooh, I don't want to do that. Start going there. I'm going to go down here. What is going on here? Oh, I have minus on. So I'm going to just go and start dragging around and making my selection. Just like this. And it looks pretty good to me. So there's my selection right there. I could go in and I could subtract some of her hair, push it out a little bit. But we see that it is not the most perfect selection in the world because all of these rough edges of her hair are going to just be lost in the selection. So what we're going to want to do is, once we have a pretty good selection made, we're going to go and hit this button right up here that says Select and Mask. That will open the Select and Mask dialog box. So we see that Photoshop it looks a little different up here. So I'm just going to kind of clean up that edge there I didn't see. Looking pretty good. First thing I want to talk about is the Properties window, the View mode. We can go and look at this selection with different ways, right? Onion skin is just this little semi-transparent overlay. Marching ants is what we've been looking at. It's the dotted line that kind of moves. Overlay on red, black, white, black and white, and on layers. So let's actually go, and the reason I show you all of these is you know, sometimes one is going to be more useful than others. Let's just actually go right here, overlay red, and let's just zoom into this image. So remember, Command plus. Oop, I got some weirdness with her finger there. Got rid of that. And we see that the selection did a pretty decent job, but we're missing chunks of her hair that we don't want to just throw away with the background. And so we are going to have to fix that. So this also works really well with trees and branches and all of that stuff. So let me just kind of skip through some of these. You can change the opacity of the mask, right? We can make it less opaque or more opaque. It's up to you. We see when it's more opaque, it's really clear to see that we didn't do the best job of masking all her hair. So first thing I want to show you is edge detection. So edge detection and smart radius can be really useful for stuff like this with your hair, but it's only going to go so far. So let's just click on smart radius and let's bring that radius up a little bit and see what it's going to do to the hair. We now see that it's beginning to fill in a little bit, and it's doing kind of a good job. It kind of takes a second. All of these tools are really RAM intensive. They take a lot of processing power, so just know that they are kind of slow. So as I bump up radius, you see that it's actually doing a pretty good job. So if I go back to 0, this is where we started, and if I bump this up, that's getting a little bit better. So not only is it selecting the hair, but it's deselecting the parts of the background that we don't want selected. So when we were back here, we had a little bit of the background, like in this little small area in this curl right here that was selected. And by bumping up edge detection, it's kind of going through, Photoshop is going through and it's finding where those edges really are. But once again, this is going to only get you so far. But it is a really useful tool. But let's actually turn it off for now. I'm going to close that. These other tools, global refinements, smooth, feather, contrast, and shift edge, these are pretty straightforward and not the most useful for something like this. So if I just go smooth, it's just going to smooth the edge of the selection. Once again, these all take a lot of RAM, so it takes a lot of effort. If I do feather, it just does just that and it feathers it. If I do contrast, it just makes it a really hard edge selection. And if I shift the edges in or out. Why did I say that backwards? That goes in, I'm sorry, to the right is in, and to the left is out. Those tools are not very useful, especially for something as refined as this. You all are better at making selections than this global refinement is going to really help you. So let's just kind of close that there. And now let's talk about how we are going to fix this. So over here on the left, we have a row of brushes. These are all quick selection tools. They look similar to the one that we have out in the tools panel. And we want to go to this second one from the top, which is Refine Edge Brush. So I'm going to select that. And I am going to, now we see that it's a brush. We can, we can make our brush bigger. We can make our brush smaller. You can also make your brush bigger or smaller up here in the tool menu. It's totally up to you how you want to do it. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger with the brackets key, something like this. And I'm just going to slowly start clicking and dragging over this hair. So what this tool is doing is it is really refining that edge. It's finding where the edge of that hair is, and it's selecting the hair and deselecting the background. Oop. Getting a little wild with it, but you see on the edges that it is selecting the hair and deselecting the background. It's really clearing up that edge. Sorry, I'm just kind of clearing this area that I painted over a bunch. So it's really it's really the only way to get a selection that's this good, right? You could imagine going through with the clone stamp tool, or I'm sorry, not the clone stamp tool, the brush tool or the lasso tool, and trying to do this. That would be, you know, nearly impossible to go through and clean up a selection like this lady's hair, especially as well as this is doing. It's, you know, it's kind of just selecting all the hair. So I'm just clicking and dragging over the top of it. It's doing a pretty good job. You just want to kind of make sure you get all of it, as much of it as you can here. And like I said, not only is it just selecting the hair, it's deselecting the background that we, you know, kind of got caught up in the hair as well. So just kind of go through this. This is looking pretty good. This is a pretty new tool in Photoshop. It hasn't been around for that long, and it is insanely useful. I mean, kind of before this tool, there was really no way of making selections this advanced without spending most of your life on it. So you see that I just like cruised around and really made a nice selection of her hair from this like pretty chunky selection that I made with the quick selection tool. So that looks pretty good to me. And then remember, we can also refine it from here with the edge detection tool. So let me get this, and I'm going to hit Smart Radius. And now I'm going to bump that radius up a little bit, and it's going to even refine the refine edge tool. So now we're really getting into like the perfect way of doing this. So, right, I'm just going to bump this up until I start seeing, like, you know, I don't want to make it look too wild, because it, you know, it's not going to do, you're never going to select every single piece of hair. You just want to select as much as you can so that it looks real when you put it on a different background. So I just bumped the radius up to about 31 pixels, somewhere in there. You know, if I go too high, let's see what it does. It might just kind of take a second. It might start getting pixelated. I'm sorry, my computer's kind of slow right now. I'm going to bump it down to about 30-ish and have the Smart Radius on, and I'm going to hit OK. Actually, let's look at it with different backgrounds first. Let's look at it on black and white. Look how much better that selection is. That is a way better selection than we started. Actually, you know, now with this on, I actually might go through with the black and white filter on and grab the Refine Edge tool again, and maybe even clean up some of this area just a little bit more, because I see that I do need a little bit of cleaning. So that is actually a really good way of really assessing that, is just changing the overlay, right? Changing the view mode here. And actually this black and white one actually looks really good. That's a really good tool to kind of see where those rough edges are and where it's a little bit diffuse. I'm looking for those areas that are a little bit undefined and diffuse, like this one that I'm clicking in up here. That's looking pretty good to me. I mean, let's click in here. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I don't know how much more we're going to be able to fix it. That's pretty good. I mean, look at these small little selections. All the black is what is selected. That is doing a great job. Let's select to a different, right? That's pretty good. So let's just hit OK, and it's going to apply that selection to our image. Okay, So now that we're here, we can delete the background. So I'm going to delete the background here. And now I have this picture of this lady standing in front of nothing, and I'm going to just grab a background just like I did in the last lesson. I am going to do the keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to select all, that's Command A. I'm going to copy it, Command C. I'm going to go to the background, and I'm going to go Command V. So these are images that I got off of the internet. I mean, these are just like screenshots off the internet. And so they're different sources, and they come from they have different color spaces. So that's what all this information says. The source is the monitor that I got it from, destination, it's on the display that I'm pasting it onto, but then this is the color source. The reason that I'm telling you this is what this warning is telling me is, hey, this background image has a different color space than the one that you're going to paste it onto. Is that okay? I don't care, so I'm going to say, yep, that's okay. All right, so now we see that, right, I pasted that image on the top. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to transform it. So remember, you can go Edit, Free Transform, or you could use the keyboard shortcut, Command T, and I'm just going to stretch this over the canvas of the picture of the woman. I'm going to reverse, remember to hit Return when you're done transforming, and now I'm going to put the image of the woman over the top. That looks pretty dang good to me. Now, I think I could maybe do a little bit better on the hair, but not much. I mean, that's pretty dang good, right? I mean, you could zoom in closer. And the other thing that I'll tell you is if you're using these tools with images that were made with a, high resolution digital camera and haven't been downsized for the internet yet, you're going to be able to get even better selections, right? Because they have a denser amount of pixels that they're made up of. These images that I'm working with, this woman and this background picture, these are from the internet. These are not the most high resolution images, and so that's going to limit the amount that I can kind of like drill down and select pixels. But with that said, this is a really good selection, really easy way to kind of tweak an image and make it your own. So I hope that was really useful for you. We're going to dive into some other tools to make selections, but this is how to refine selections with the select and mask. And we're going to see later on in this class that masking is going to be really, really important. So I hope this was useful.